breast milk for 6 months, and also close monitoring of both mother and child, and then provide care, treatment, and support for both HIV women and their babies or their families. 6, confront and mitigate HIV-related stigma discrimination. I think you already know about that, which is create a conducive environment for HIV prevention through legal and policy action. Again, this is easier said than done, but it can be done. Promote public awareness and openness about AIDS. As we have seen over the years in our country, that the media, for instance, is becoming better at saying not stigmatizing, non-judgmental, etc. And that has contributed a lot to mitigation of HIV-related stigma and discrimination. But involve people living with HIV in all aspects of HIV prevention. This is also very, very important. We are lucky in Indonesia. We already have a national network of people living with HIV. In some provinces, we are already in 28 provinces, so that they are meaningfully involved, starting from planning, policy development, but also advocacy for non-discrimination against HIV and positive people. So this is further reaching, and I thank you. Don't forget, see you in Bali for the 9th ICAP, International Congress on AIDS for the Asia and the Pacific region, 9 to 13 August 2009. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Naf. We will have 3 rounds of question and answers. The first round is for University of Erlangga, University of Diponegoro, and University of Udayana. The second round is for University of Gadjah Mada and University of Monash in Malaysia, Sunway. And the third round is for the UE site at Depok and here. I will give the opportunity after the third round. I will invite all the sides for any burning questions. Okay, we'll start with University of Erlangga. Any questions for Ibu Nafsia? University of Erlangga?
We have no question yet.
Okay, let's move to University of Diponegoro.
Yes, we ask.
Okay, please. University of Diponegoro, your questions for Ibu Naf, please.
Okay. Good morning, Dr. Nafsiah Boy. We have 3 questions. The first question: how's the government policy toward ARV? No funding to support the ARV existence. And the second question: how to protect our children from HIV/AIDS? Is there any program for this from government? And the last question: many province and or district doesn't have regional law on HIV/AIDS. We call peraturan daerah. This is relation with less budget from for HIV/AIDS prevention. How about that? Thank you.
Okay, we move to University of Udayana. If you have any questions for Ibu Naf, please.
Yes, we have some questions. Thank you. As you said before that if a health center takes place near the brothel, this health center must have a program to give prevention or treatment to the female sex worker or related community there. In our opinion, this program means integrating primary healthcare approach to control HIV/AIDS. Do you have a proof or evidence or success stories about this approach, maybe in other province in Indonesia or in other countries? And my second question is, what kind of policies can support this approach in Indonesia? Thank you.
Okay, please, Ibu Naf.
Thank you. They're very good questions. Terima kasih. First of all, for the University of Diponegoro, no funding for antiretrovirus. Actually, there is. Indeed, at the moment, the source of funding mostly is from the Global Fund. Global Fund Round 4, Global Fund Round 8 again, and then, but also some from national APBN. But it's not only funding, it's the system that creates this non-sustainability or unsustainability of ARV provision. Because, for instance, for the Global Fund, we already produce ARV in country, okay? Especially first line. Most probably in the near future, even second line will be produced in Indonesia. But, for instance, Global Fund you cannot buy ARV from Indonesia, from Kimia Pharma, because Kimia Pharma does not yet qualify. They do not yet have WHO recognition. So, we have to import. And then, as you know, from import, it takes a lot of time. And so it's the management, according to me, it's the management that have to be improved. So how do we see it in the future? For 2009 onwards, actually, we do have enough resources. We have put it in round 4, round 9, round 8, round 9, and also what we have done is ensure that HIV/AIDS is in the national, what we call Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah, okay, which is coordinated by Bappenas. We are working on it now. Inshallah, it will be in the RPJMN for 2010-2014 for the next administration. Also, we have requested the local government to provide some funds for the buffer stock. So the local government buys ARV for, let's say, 3 months, and whenever there is a shortage, that would be used as buffer stock. In some provinces and districts, they are already doing this. So actually, it's the management, and that is, inshallah, we're trying to improve that. How to protect our children? I think this has to be from parents. There are a lot of parents groups, etc., that are already doing that. Also in schools, which is the life skill education, integrating education about HIV into reproductive health education. In some districts, kabupaten and provinces, they already have it in the muatan lokal the curriculum. So there are, it has to come from the parents as well as from the schools. But what I think needs to be accelerated and improved is protecting them against drug traffickers, for instance. Okay? Because that is such, they now go even into primary school, and it's the parents to be able to, not all parents are able to discuss with their children about about sexual issues as well as drugs. Okay, and that is why parents as well as teachers, but also the community, have to be involved in Is there a government program? Yes, but not from the National AIDS Commission, because the National AIDS Commission is trying to have the highest impact with the lowest cost. Okay, we have to prioritize. About the PERDA, you're right. In some, but although there are already now at the moment more and more provinces have PERDA, also a lot of districts, I think already more than 20 districts and cities, but problem is these PERDAs are not even implemented. Enforcement of the PERDA is very weak. So again, this is something we have to improve. For the moment, for the budget, as I said, we from the central government or for the NAGRI, there are some regulations now for HIV, the funding for HIV, as well as from Ms. Bapanas in the RPJMN. From Udayana, thank you so much for your question. Yes, we have very good examples now. We have examples from Malang, from Banyuwangi, from Capri, Kepulauan Riau, and Batu 24. And learning from that experience, what we did in KPA was inviting experts as well as people from the field and say, okay, why is it that they were able to succeed? Why is it that they were able to have better treatment, but also better use of condoms, so that what we see is a decline in the prevalence of gonorrhea and chlamydia especially. And from that experience, we have now a standard operational procedure, which we call PMTS, pencegahan melalui transmisi seksual. We have gotten funding from for 14 pilot sites in Indonesia using that same. And what is different is, first of all, local commitment. Even if it's only PERDA, you don't listen to it, you know. You don't, emang gue pikirin. That's what they say. But if it's local commitment, it's the commitment of the sex workers, the mucikaris, the mami-mami, the owners, because this is unorganized. Yeah, don't swear. This is big money. Yeah, commercial sex. It's a commercial entity. But if they have make the commitment locally that they want to be healthy, then they can say to any man who does not want to, who comes there and say, sir, no condom, no sex. Okay, that is one. Second, we have provided better treatment for sexually transmitted infections. Treatment education, because in the past, as you know, a lot of sex workers as well as a man go to penjual obat and buy medicine which caused resistance. So we have found a lot of resistance, especially for gonorrhea treatment. So we have changed that now to azithromycin and cefixime, which is practical. We call it the PPT, or periodic presumptive treatment. So we just assume that all sex workers have STI, give them the azithromycin cefixime package. We can take it there in front of the health provider, so they will not forget. And that is good for 3 months. So it is improvement of that, but also we have improved the procurement and distribution of condom and what is bleaching? And lubricants. Okay, condom and lubricants, and have the outlets as close as possible to where they're needed. And then, of course, last but not least is the involvement of the primary health centers, the puskesmases, to provide the education, provide the treatment as well as condoms as for condom outlet. Okay, so which policies? We do have the policies. We have the Strategi Nasional. We do have the Rencana Aksi Nasional, and then we have some peraturan Menko Kesra, etc. So we have provided the policy for all that, so that working together with the Ministry of Health, and even with the prisoners, the Department Hukam, we have been able to set the policy that those who are there, who are in prison, should also receive primary health care. Okay, but policy only is not enough. You have to provide resources, and that is why we have been working very hard to mobilize resources from outside, Global Fund, etc., as well as from domestic sources. Thank you. I hope that's sufficient.
Okay, now I would like to invite University of Gajah Mada. University of Gajah Mada, if you have questions for Ibu Nafsia. Hello, University of Gajah Mada. Hello, University of Gajah Mada. Are you still with us? No response. So we move to Malaysia. Malaysia, Marasanway, do you have any questions for Dr. Nasiah Roy, please?
Yes, I have some questions. I actually missed a big part of your lecture because there was a breaking transmission. I would like to know, I have 3 questions in actual fact. Previously, in the previous week, we had a speaker from Timor-Leste, and he was saying that the government allocation of Timor-Leste for HIV programs is very minimal because the incidence and prevalence of HIV infection in that country is sort of not high enough. So what would your advice be in encouraging countries which have low incidence or prevalence of HIV infection in running programs to prevent HIV? Because HIV thing is something like how would I say, it's something like the tip of the iceberg. You don't see it, in actual fact it's growing, and there's some countries who sort of say, since our incidence and prevalence is so low, we don't want to spend so much money on it, we spend on some other health programs. The second thing is that in one of your slides you had this high impact, low impact thing, the 4 squares, and you say that the best is where there's low cost and high impact will be towards the people who are most at risk, like the HIV, like the people who inject drugs and the prostitutes and those people. So, but I was thinking that isn't the other people also at risk, like the school children? Because if you inculcate in them an understanding of what high risk behavior is and what to avoid, then there will also be an important group of people to look at as your sort of high impact quadrant. The third thing I want to know is that is prostitution legalized in Indonesia, and if it's not, would you think that it is actually good to legalize prostitution so that the sex workers are not abused or exploited? Otherwise, what happens is that, the time whereby, okay, no condom, no sex will not work because people will take advantage of these sex workers. Thank you very much.
Excellent questions, excellent. Government allocation minimum, for sure, I understand, in low-level epidemics. So what I would propose is, first of all, that with the minimum amount of money, if necessary, look for international funding, is to do the mapping and estimation of people most at risk. In any country, there are sex workers, there are clients, some have injecting drug users, some have men that will have sex with men, but only after mapping and estimation can you actually predict what the course of the epidemic will be. Second is fight stigma and discrimination. In the early days, in the early years of the epidemic in Indonesia, we showed people these pictures, frightening them, scaring them, etc. But what we got was, they were not scared of the virus, they were scared of the people. Okay, so now we have to reverse that and give explanation about HIV, what it is, how it can be transmitted, that is not easily transmitted. Maybe it's the avian flu is more easily transmitted than HIV, etc. So really giving the right information in the right way will, and don't forget the media, mass media, etc., to involve them so that there is no stigma and discrimination, and then urge people who have been engaged in risky sex or drug use to go to VCT centers. So your third policy should be that there are a network of voluntary counseling and testing centers all over the place, because if they can they have to travel a long way to be tested, nobody will do that. But and the fourth thing, as I said before, do not have testing facilities if you don't have treatment facilities. Every single person who has been found positive should have the right to treatment services. So if you have it like that, and then of course the monitoring evaluation, after this you should have a good monitoring evaluation and surveillance program in place that has to be in the policy, so that you can measure the increase of the epidemic. Okay? And indeed, talking with legislators and political people, you have to convince them that this is not only a health issue, it's a development issue, and they are responsible for that. And if now we don't prevent, we will see what is happening in Africa, etc. So that's very powerful. And then if there is already 1 or 2 infected people, they can come and speak. Okay? Because for me, the best advocates are those people living with HIV who have been infected because we did not protect them. They didn't have the knowledge. They didn't have the services. Okay? Yes, I agree with you. School children are very important. Okay? But we also know that, first of all, the number of school children are so huge. It will be very high cost to reach all school children. While the probability or the risk of infection actually is quite low in the general population, if your epidemic is still in a concentrated epidemic level. Okay? And that is why it's very important to scale up very fast. Epidemiologically, if we can reach, we can have universal access to prevention, care, support, and treatment to 80% of those most at risk, actually you have lowered the risk in the general population. Okay? So that is, yeah, so you protect the general population by containing the infection just among the most at-risk population. And then legalization of prostitution, my God, my grandchildren will have become grandmothers before that can be solved, because we have been discussing this over and over, but it is becoming too political. For me, as a public health person, never mind, let them talk about legalization or whatever. But locally, we have to have good programs in place. We have to find the resources that we can do preventive as well as care support or treatment at local level. That's enough. The discussion about whether or not legalization, whether some even say you are legalizing condoms and etc. So that's a never-ending story. Never mind. Millions of people will have been affected before that is solved. Okay, so I'm leaving it to the political people also to discuss it. I hope that answers
one last question?
Sure.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
The thing is that previously in one of the lectures I asked about contact tracing of the HIV infected people. That means if let's say a man has HIV infection and the doctor has done the counseling and everything, so does the doctor has the liberty to go and inform the wife if the man does not want to do so? Because there is this ethical problem there. I mean, if let's say the guy said, I'm going to inform my wife, I'm not going to use a condom, then if let's say the wife get infected in the process, it's not good. So how does the government, deal with this problem? Thank you.
You're right. That is a relevant question. If the doctor-patient relationship is good, okay, then yes, he or she can do contact tracing. I have also found in my work that quite a number of husbands don't want their wives to know. And that is why in the training of the counselors, one special skill that they have to do is what is called couple counseling, where the man doesn't have to do anything himself. The counselor will help, but they're both there. It's couple counseling. And if the counselor is good, it is very, very effective. Okay? Because then there you can say, okay, if this is a discordant family where one is still negative, how do you prevent the other from getting infected? And even if both are already infected, they still have to use condom because to avoid reinfection and all that. But it really needs special training for counselors and for the doctor. I have found some doctors with very good patient-doctor relationship who can do this. The couple counseling and the contact tracing, yes. But on a large scale, no, not yet. Because even doctors are sometimes really scared of talking about this with somebody HIV positive. A lot of doctors actually have not been trained as counselors. We're trying to improve that, to have doctors trained as counselors, but also counselors, nurses, and midwives are sometimes very, very effective as counselors. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, let's move to University of Indonesia at the Depok site. So you have questions for Ibu Nasya? University of Indonesia, Depok side, please. No, sound is coming to the mic. Yeah. Yes. Salembas, Depok side, we cannot hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Please.
In your slide, you said that prevent the sexual transmission of HIV or PMTS. One topic is mobile and migrant population. It's good for us. You know that in our country, especially in my village in Atambua on Nusa Tenggara Timur, we have many. Terima kasih. Many people go abroad, and then when they came back in our village our village, we don't know when they stay in there. Maybe their activity about the sexuality, we don't know. But when they came back in our country, what strategy for us to prevent sexual transmission of HIV/AIDS? Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions from Depok? Okay, let's move to Salemba side. And any questions?
Yes.
Good morning. I would like to ask for further explanation about the MTCT program in Indonesia. Maybe you can explain further what has been done, especially in our primary health cares, and how about the coverage regarding what you've mentioned before, that this program is critical to be done, but in the other hand, it is a highly cost program as well. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the sides, please? Okay, let me give the floor to Ibu. Pak Tambua.
Yeah, Pak Tambua, good morning. How are you? Yes, indeed. From Nusa Tenggara Timur, not only from Atambua, a lot of people go abroad to seek work to other countries. And indeed, we have found some years ago that they come back. One man came back with HIV positive. And this happened. What we have started doing is, first of all, again, look for evidence. How many people came back? So first of all, we have trained the organization which gives apa namanya itu? Which gives medical, which does medical examination before they go abroad. Okay, we have trained them, we have provided them with laboratory facilities, etc., so that they can do counseling, pre and post test and testing them before they leave. But also, for those who come back, actually there are no specific facilities yet. We have now put in a proposal to, first of all, do an assessment of how big is the problem actually. We know of anecdotal, we know of some instances where we know the sexual abuse was reported. So let me start from the beginning. Okay, migrant people or mobile people, you see two different things. One is the man. Usually they go to find work, and then in the place where they are, they engage in high risk sex. Okay. The second one is the women, especially young women, who basically are trafficked. They are trafficked and recruited for sex work in other countries. Of course, both are at risk, but the women are more at risk, and that is why what we are trying to do now is give the information before they leave, and if necessary, testing. But indeed, after they come back, we don't know yet. Okay, we don't have the figures yet. How to prevent sexual transmission is if it is abroad. But also we have mobile and migrant population within the provinces, yeah, Pak. So, for instance, from Atambua, they go to work in, let's say, Kalimantan or in Papua. In Papua, they are lonely and they engage in risky sex. While the women usually are trafficked or lured into sex work. For instance, we know from East Java to Batam, for instance, or from West Java to other provinces, and it is very difficult. That is already beyond my powers. Okay, what we need to do at the moment indeed is have as much as possible education. TCT in Indonesia. This is new because nationally, actually, we are still a low-level epidemic. Our prevalence in Indonesia is 0.16%. But that's only because of our huge population. When we did the estimation and we did the mapping, we found that in the subpopulations like injecting drug users, sex workers, etc., the prevalence is quite high. Among injecting drug users, in some it is about from 50 to 90% HIV positive among injecting drug users. And that is why we have scaled up harm reduction activities, NSPs as well as methadone, very early, since 2006. But also among sex workers. For instance, we found that among sex workers in Sorong, the prevalence of HIV comes to 22%. Okay, and in other provinces it's 10%, 15%, so that's very high. More than 5% is already concentrated epidemic level, and that is why we have been scaling that up. We have scaled up in the coverage as well as in effectiveness. What we have found in our last monitoring in 2008, first of all, that among injecting drug use, you were asking about PMTCT, but let me say, because our first prevention is this at risk. But then over time, since 2006, 2007, we saw in some areas where there is high prevalence, also there are children born from mother person. So that is where we have program. PMTCT is basically in the health center, training of the doctor, and so VCT and EMI, training of the doctor, the midwife, nurse, counselor, okay, to be able to provide PMTCT to pregnant mothers. But actually, it's not yet on a high scale. I would like to see it more increased, and that is why we have put in a proposal to Global Fund Round 8, which is going to start in July. For 12 provinces where the prevalence is highest, PMTCT is included, where it is education, of course, education for pregnant mothers, where if she has ever had, for instance, STI, she should ask for VCT, and the health workers are trained if they see, for instance, gonorrhea or chlamydia or any STI in a pregnant woman to offer VCT, and if it's positive, to offer immediately ARV during the last semester, also ARV throughout delivery, and it does not have to be sexual at the moment. The latest policy from WHO is sexual is not needed anymore. Afterwards, also the baby is given. We now have pediatric ARV. Okay, and if and breast milk can be given. Exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months is allowed. Actually, it's much better than given in formula. But at the age of 6 months, immediately stop breast milk and start with other food, because it's the mixed feeding that causes changes in the intestines of the baby, and that can have highest risk.